Hello and welcome to Savage Movie Night Podcast. I am your last Starfighter host, Adam. Joining me, as always, is my rock and roll high school co-host, Kristen. Hi, Kristen.
Hey, Adam, how's it going?
Good. Always glad to have you here. And of course, the show wouldn't be complete without our palm trees in Illinois is a perfectly normal thing co-host, Rob. Hi, Rob.
Hey, Adam, Kristen, what's happening?
Not much. Just glad to be here doing the show with you guys. And of course, today we are talking all about the horror classic, the one that really kicked off the slasher genre, Halloween from 1978 with John Carpenter and starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance. Like I said, it's a classic. So what is your guys' history with this film? We'll start with you, Kristen, since it was your choice.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the franchise. I find the character of Michael Myers interesting, and the different iterations that they've attempted in the franchise itself through the reboots, the sequels, whatever. Obviously, if we're talking just with this first one, it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, I think this first one is just a quintessential classic, and it's one of those ones that, even if slashers aren't your thing, there's so much cinematically that is interesting in this film that I really like and appreciate. But yeah, so if we're talking like history, I'm pretty much a fan of most of the movies that come out with, even the ones that are kind of duds. I still have something to have fun with. Like even in the most recent trilogy, Halloween Kills, people hate that one. There's still some parts of it I think that are salvageable. So yeah, I'm definitely just like a Halloween franchise fan.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about the franchise overall kind of in the wrap up because I had been holding off that I earlier like a month or so ago I went through all of Friday the 13th and all of Nightmare on Elm Street. Those were rewatches for pretty much all of those for me. But I was holding off on going through Halloween movies because I knew we were going to try and talk about it sometime in October. And I wanted, when I watched the first one, to be fresh, but I didn't, I wanted to go through them in order. So I will be interested to talk to you about the franchise. And who knows, maybe we decide we don't have enough time in this episode, and that'll be like a supplementary thing we do. As a separate thing. So, but before we get into my history, Rob, what's your history?
Super familiar with it just because it was, part of
Everywhere.
culture. Yeah, it was everywhere. I'm the kind of guy that likes the music more than the movie. The movie, this franchise, and the Friday 13th and all that, don't really do it for me. So I kind of feel like I watched something that used to scare me maybe as a little kid, or was something I used to get excited about, but otherwise, not really my thing.
And have you seen anything else in the franchise other than this one, or?
I have, yeah, I have. I don't remember which, but none of them did what it does to other people.
Yeah. So, I saw Halloween probably 25 years ago or so. It was as I was really getting into John Carpenter films and, uh, you know, like also in loose preparation for this, I finally filled in, like I'd been filling in the John Carpenter films I'd never seen. So I finally saw Memoirs of an Invisible Man and Village of the Damned, which are some of his lesser films for good reason that they were basically just work for hire. So, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just blandly competent. But anyway, so I'd seen the first Halloween and I'd seen the second, and I'd always heard such bad things about the rest that, it was kind of like the film snob, watch one, watch two, stop. Like I said, because I was on planes on Friday and Sunday. So I watched one and two on Friday. I watched three, four, and five on Sunday. I watched six last night. I had seen the Rob Zombie the two Rob Zombie ones in theaters with friends, just because one of my buddies is a really big horror film guy, and I liked, especially at that time, I really liked Rob Zombie as a director. I'd really liked House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, and so I was super excited to see what he did next. And uh, I still have a memory of like going to see the first one with my buddy Jeff and Justin, and they'd had some adult beverages in my car while I was driving because most people who know me know I don't drink, so I was always the designated driver. Um, and like we're going into the theater, like we're walking towards the theater. My buddy still had his little red cup with him. I'm like, Jeff, you can't take your whiskey inside. um, like, I think they're going to stop you. So he finished it real quick. But I haven't watched those two in a while, but I don't think they would hold up very well. I know they're not very well received. And so I want to, as I continue this rewatch, which I'll continue after this podcast records, I do want to watch like H2O and Resurrection, and then the Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. Yeah, that's my history. But excited to talk with you about it today because not only have I always loved this first one that we're going to mainly focus on here, that I've also just always loved John Carpenter as a director. He is a beloved director of mine, which is why I'd wanted to be able to say I've seen every movie, just about every movie he's done. I still need to watch Someone's Watching Over Me and Elvis at some point.
Yeah, no, I think he's a great director as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a bunch of his, like, or at least not necessarily his movies, the movies that he scored. I did for a recent ranking thing. And that was very interesting to see the different types of films that he scores. But yeah, I also am a Carpenter fan, particularly his scores. I think that his scores really elevate a film. Even if it's a garbage film, he manages to make it interesting with his music.
Yeah, well, and that's why, like, these days he doesn't even direct. Like, he just smokes weed, plays video games, and plays music, which is awesome.
Sounds like a good life.
Yeah. Well, and as much as I love John Carpenter, I'm also not sad he's not directing, because I watched the most recent movie he's made, which was like 2010, and it was so not good. It was awful.
What movie was that?
That was The Ward with
The Ward. I haven't seen that one. I think I've seen the cover.
Yeah, it's what's her face, who was married to Johnny Depp, and Amber Heard.
Well, I have no interest anyway.
Yeah, well, well, I mean, like, that was long before all the controversy around her.
Right.
But
just seen enough of her face.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, regardless of what you think of her, it's just a bad movie and a slog to get through, from what I remember, because I watched it maybe 10 years ago. And yeah, no, but like just about everything else, like he's ever done, even like Ghost of Mars and Vampires, like I can find enjoyably fun. Like I said, I finally watched Village of the Damned and Memoirs of an Invisible Man, and like those, like, they're studio movies he kind of did as work for hire, and the problem with them is they're just kind of dull and lack energy or life. Like, they're clearly just work for hire, where he's just going through the motions, and that kind of goes all the way through the cast and the script, because like Village of the Damned has a great cast. Like, it's like Christopher Reeve and Kirstie Alley and Mark Hamill.
It's got a great score too. That one's interesting because he like collaborated with somebody on the score, so it adds like his flair, but also has like kind of some electric guitars that make it even cooler. When I was doing my ranking of stuff, I like put that in my top 5 of like the 12 that I ranked, because it was just I was pleasantly surprised by like how well how much that music stuck out to me.
Well, and like I noticed when I was watching 3 that like even though he didn't write or direct 3, he still came back and was a creator of the score. And it really, like you said, it really stood out. But anyway, we've talked around it enough. Let's first talk about, give a brief overview of the movie itself, and then we're going to kind of dive into it. Similar to Midnight Cowboy and kind of going forward, at least for the foreseeable future, when we talk about movies, we're not going to do kind of the deep dives into its history and everything that we've done in the past. We may return to that format at some point, but for now, we're keeping things a bit looser. But essentially, Halloween is the story of Michael Myers, who, while being a 6-year-old boy, who, while being babysat by his older sister on Halloween night, his older sister starts to have some extracurricular fun with her boyfriend, and Michael, while dressed in his little clown costume, stabs both of them. And is taken away to a mental asylum. Fast forward 15 years later, a bunch of teenagers in the neighborhood where Michael was from are getting ready for Halloween and making plans. And, some of them have to babysit. Some of them are trying to get together with boyfriends. And then it turns out Michael has escaped the asylum, unbeknownst to these teenagers. And Dr. Loomis, the doctor who's been caring for Michael and views him as just pure evil, must try and chase down Michael. Then, obviously Michael goes on a killing spree. One of the things we'll probably talk about later on is what is famously part of the Halloween canon, like a lot of other films, that isn't actually established in this film. It's established in later films. But that's the basics. Kristen, I don't know if you want to add anything about the plot that I left out.
That's pretty much the bare bones. You got a guy coming back 15 years later to continue to do a rampage on his hometown. The people who put him away. We can get into discussion just about regular things if you're good.
Yeah. And as always, especially with this version of the format, spoilers ahead, because we're just going to kind of jump around. So
if you can spoil a movie where people are getting killed, like spoiler alert, people die in a slasher.
But spoiler alert, there actually isn't a lot of slashing for this slasher movie. It's more of a strangler.
Sorry, Rob, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say that it was. It didn't hide the fact that it was supposed to be sort of day and date for that time. So this was done in 1978, and so you see obviously what people are wearing, and the dated clothes and whatnot. You see that. You also see, although John Carpenter, the pace is slower, like the older movies, as far as slower and dark. That's the other thing I wanted to bring. It's a very what I mean, like not really lit up, not dark as in a darkly shot film, but the lighting is very low.
Yeah, well, some of that is budget, because like even two, which comes out in 1981, is much better lit, just because they have a stronger budget. And some of it's obviously they're trying to go for an atmospheric look. And I think Dean Cundy, who is a cinematographer that works with John Carpenter a lot, is a very good cinematographer. There were times I remember watching this and going, like, it's not even just dark, like you just can't see anything. And like it's going beyond trying for something atmospheric or working within limitations of the budget, and is just somewhat badly lit, to your point. But overall, the cinematography is very good and it's very well shot. It's just there are sometimes you're watching it and like I can't see a goddamn thing.
Thought it was just me, so I'm glad you admitted that.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
because like that's something I noticed. Like I said, as the franchise went on, that the film stock and the lighting, starting in 2, is much better. For even though they're always lower end budget things, as most of the horror slasher genre is, that the film stock and the lighting and the production value overall is always there. But to your point, Rob, that it's a time capsule of 1978. That's one of the things I really like about watching a lot of these slasher films, these horror films because like I said, I've been going through all of Friday the 13th and all of Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm now going through all of Halloween. I'm also going through Scream, although that's a bit of an outlier. They have bigger budgets and put more thought into costuming and production values. But like you said, Rob, they tend to be very much time capsules of the era in which they're filmed in terms of costuming and locations and cars and stuff like that. Just because they don't have the budget, they're not putting a lot of time and thought into costuming and character and stuff like that a lot of other films would. And so it also means that sometimes costumers get very exaggerated in the styles they want to give characters so that it's not really reflective of what people are actually wearing day to day. Whereas in a lot of these movies, sometimes actors are even just showing up in, especially for the very low budget ones, they're just showing up in what they already own. But, it tends to, feel more realistic in a lot of these.
Well, so Adam, earlier you brought up the budget, and the budget for this film was actually only $300,000, which is pretty low. It's a pretty low budget. So we're talking about, but it managed to gross $47 million in the United States, approximately 23 million internationally. So it blew up completely. And it's one of those films that, like, it managed to do a lot with a little, because of the camera work, because of the actors involved. Because we have to talk about Jamie Lee Curtis. This is her film debut, and so this is really what helped put her on the map. Even if she doesn't necessarily love the legacy of being known for horror, it definitely is what built her career in Hollywood to go to different heights, to do the dramatic roles, to do the different sorts of things.
How old was she then? Do you happen to know how old she was at this moment in time?
Let me see.
I think that, like, with all films that have teens in them,
she was 19. She turned 20, like in November of '78.
Even at 19, she has an older look about her than a 19, than the age 19. She just looks older.
Yeah.
She was perfectly cast for the type of character that she was, which was just like a very bookish, responsible teenager, doesn't really want to do the partying thing, just wants to study, get her money for babysitting, that kind of thing, actually likes babysitting, which is fun.
Yeah. Well, and just for a quick reference, we said the budget was $300,000. That's a little under 1.5 million today.
Which even by today's standard is
it would be pretty
yeah.
low, but well, and Jamie Lee Curtis is great in it. PJ Souls, it plays one of her friends, and PJ Souls would go on to be in a minor star in her own right. Obviously, not very few are at the level of Jamie Lee Curtis, but PJ Souls was in like Stripes, and she was in Rock and Roll High School, which I referenced in the opening, which was a Roger Corman Ramones vehicle that PJ Souls was the star of. She's also got a bit part in The Devil's Rejects. And then she was also part of the title of a local H album in the 90s called Whatever Happened to PJ Souls, amongst many other things.
Another interesting fun fact is that originally this movie was not going to be called Halloween. They were thinking of calling it The Babysitter Murders. And that would have been interesting. I think if they were going to call it Babysitter Murders, they probably should have killed more babysitters. So I think they made a good call, maybe changing the title. But it is interesting because they do end up referencing it in like the 2018 sequel. And so, like, basically just like throw out like the title of The Babysitter Murders, that kind of thing. So there's still like different callbacks to it later in the franchise. But yeah, fun little tidbit that I thought was super interesting.
The guy who plays Dr. Loomis.
That is Donald Pleasance. He's He's such an interesting guy. He comes to this role with his whole chest. I love him.
He actually looks creepier to me than Michael Myers. Like when he walks around on the
Yeah.
street, if you were like to play that music, when sometimes it does happen, he's the guy who looks creepy to me, walking around in a trench coat, looking like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
He's got that feral look about him because he's like, I have to find my patient. So he's
yes.
well,
just
we'll talk about like what a bad doctor he's in a minute. I just want to jump back and because I want to because there's some conflicting information, Kristen, about it originally having been wanted to be called the Babysitter Murders because that's a thing that's been around for a long time, but at least one of the producers has claimed that's not true, that it was always supposed to be Halloween.
Urban legends, nice.
There's a conflict. So, it could be that's true. And the producer who was one of the people who brought the concept to Carpenter after working with them on Assault on Precinct 13 is incorrect, or it could be, that's just an urban legend that has spread over time and it's hard to debunk. But sorry to derail things.
No, interesting.
But yeah, no, Donald Pleasance is a great character actor. I mean, he's been in like actual A-level stuff, like he's in The Great Escape, but then he's in a ton of B movies. Like I know he's in a lot of stuff I watch on like Mystery Science Theater or Riff Tracks. Like if you remember last year when we did Fitzcarraldo, and there was that guy with the chin who worked in the engine room on the ship, the real lantern jaw. And I talked about, oh, that's the guy from Puma Man. Donald Pleasance was the villain in Puma Man, which was a movie that they did on Mystery Science Theater 3000 years ago. But, he's also not only in all the Halloween films up until 6, which comes out just after he passed away at the age of 75, but he's in, like he's the president in Escape from New York. He's in Prince of Darkness, another John Carpenter film. He works with John Carpenter a couple times, and is just, a legendary actor in his own right.
yeah. I love the like what I was describing, the like feral nature that he brings to this character, because like obviously you're in deep shit because your patient that has a killer has gotten out. So I understand the chaos of it. But yeah, there's just so many parts of the movie that like he adds this element of levity to the film. It's like, oh, there's somebody going around killing, but then he's like running somewhere and going, has he killed again? And it's just like so silly. Like it's one of like my friends and I, like we love that he says that. We're always like, has he killed again? Because he's just so
It's
silly.
nothing like a doctor to have your back.
Well, it's also like if you think about like what a doctor treating a patient should be, that do you want him being like, I knew after the first time I talked to him, he was evil. I've been saying he should be locked up and never, like, what are you doing to actually treat him? Like, what is your actual diagnosis here? Because this just sounds like babbling nonsense of someone who themselves is unwell. Like, can I see your credentials, sir? And it only goes further in subsequent movies, but
well, in this movie, Michael definitely does not try to. I don't know if that's true. But doesn't try to kill the doctor, but do any of the other movies, Halloween movies, does he try to actually kill the doctor? Because like that's
well, it also depends on which one you stop at. Sometimes the doctor is also dead by the end of the movie. We'll get into it. That this franchise is famous for changing its own lore with every subsequent movie, and basically going psych.
And it all depends on who's behind the wheel, essentially, like who is doing certain films and stuff. That's another big reason why the lore just keeps changing, because they would attempt to reboot it in some way. And so they're like, okay, well, we want to do this storyline, but we don't like that the movie did this. So we're just going to create this whole new sub genre area of it that's just going to be about the other part. I'm looking up the chart because there's a chart.
Yeah, but like Well, but even like with the chart, it still will like negate and change its own lore, like because like the chart really shows like 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 are supposedly all within the same lore line. Then 1 and 2 to H2O to Resurrection, and then 1 to Halloween, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. But like even between like because Loomis and Myers explode when the hospital explodes at the end of 2, but then they negate that at the start of 4, um, with and say they were both just horribly hurt, and Loomis and Donald Pleasance has some of the worst fake scar makeup on his face, and then it had looked like at the end of you know, uh, 4 that he was dead, that Myers was dead again, and that Danielle Harris was going to be the new Myers, and then they kind of, it's, and then, they introduced the whole Cult of Thorn thing, and, and Paul Rudd's worst performance of his career in 6. I mean, it's just a whole thing.
I liked how in the beginning of the film, after like the establishing scene or scenes, that there are moments where the stalker, right,
Yeah,
is
the Shape. They call him the Shape as much as they do Michael Myers, and that's Nick Castle is playing the Shape in this, who would go on to be a fairly well-known director in his own right. He would do The Last Starfighter, which there are some fun connections, not just between him in this one, but in subsequent sequels. People connected to the Last Starfighter are also involved, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Nick Castle also directed The Boy Who Could Fly, Tap with Gregory Hine. He did like Major Payne and the Dennis the Menace movie, amongst a couple other things.
nice. Yeah, he there's scenes that are broad daylight that sort of work well and just capturing those spooky moments that happen during the day. And if you see a weird looking person, like
Well, this
Hanging out in the
movie,
I
background.
don't like,
That's why it's great.
but here's what's kind of funny. Like it does a good job of being spooky, but at the same time, if it was a wide shot, it'd be just like any crazy guy down at least my block where I live.
yeah. But I mean, but that's almost in what they were going for. But I mean, because like you talked about pacing, Rob, this movie is like 90% pacing
Yeah.
and atmosphere. That
Hmm.
most of it is just giving you creepy vibes. That the body count is incredibly low, especially for a slasher film. And then,
Right.
as I kind of joked earlier, that it shouldn't even be called a slasher film because he kills more people by strangling on screen, I think, than he does with a knife in this one. You know, that was something else I noticed. I also noticed, because this is a movie, like we said, that really kicks off the genre. That there have been slasher films in the past, like Black Christmas, with which Bob Clark from Black Christmas kind of insinuates this was a ripoff that they originally wanted. That the people behind Halloween, that John Carpenter originally wanted to do a sequel to Black Christmas, and then did this, and that basically insinuating that they just ripped him off. But uh, regardless, that the connection between sex and death, because like you notice a lot of the strangulation of the young women, they're making moaning sounds that sound very similar to something else, which based on what I was seeing seems to have been a deliberate, they were trying to deliberately make that connection, and despite that, a lot of later slashers, especially like Friday the 13th, where that connection between the virgin is the one who's going to live because they're, it's kind of enforcing, conservative Reagan values. Deborah Hill, one of the co-writers, said that wasn't like the intention for this one, that the intention was that part of the reason Jamie Lee Curtis's virginal character is able to live, that it's actually her sexual repression coming through and allowing her to have the, and releasing that violent energy all at once, is what saves her. But those were just some interesting things I noticed.
For the record, though, this has more body count than Friday the 13th first movie, right?
No, I mean, because there's only like 3 or 4 in this one, right?
Probably. Let me look it up.
Because I know
there's a whole YouTube channel devoted to kill counts in movies.
Yeah.
So they've got like
yeah, because I know, like, they kept talking about, like, in the second one, they kept talking about he's killed 3 people, and because I know there's like PJ Souls and her boyfriend, and the one girl who was
the friend who's also
the friend
babysitting,
who gets strangled in the car. So that's 3, and that's the 3 they keep referencing in 2, but
the counted deaths listed on it includes Judith, the sister, a mechanic dude, which says there's a body seen in grass. So the guy he takes the car from, and then Annie, Bob, and Linda, so 5. So and then 5, this says non-counted deaths, but that's obviously not kills. That's just deaths. Because it's like his parents. So obviously he didn't kill the parents.
Oh yeah, well, and you could also count the sister and the boyfriend at the start, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, the sister is Judith.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stabbed 9 times with a butcher knife.
Okay, so now I get how they're getting. So there should be 6 then, if you're counting the mechanic, because there was.
So the boyfriend, I actually just rewatched the opening scene. I don't think the boyfriend gets killed. I rewatched it this morning, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, he leaves the house and then he goes upstairs.
That's like what did you do? Because he's outside with the police or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, 5 makes sense, but no, I was surprised, how low the body count was, but also, like, sometimes it can be hard to tell because this franchise also, while they will increase the on-screen kill count by a good amount in subsequent ones, they'll also do a lot of stuff off-screen. Like in 4, 4 is the one with the angry mob. Yeah. They do, they devastate the police station, but they do it all off-screen. So it's like, do you count those kills to the kill count or not?
So Rob, to formally answer the question, there are more kills in Friday the 13th. It lists 10 on the webpage. So double in that one.
I am definitely not the expert here.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're answering, because I'm sure there are other folks that weren't sure either.
Yeah, but because, like, Nightmare on Elm, that's one of the things I was noticing, like, with this franchise as a whole, is, like, overall its kills were fewer and far in between than, like, Friday the 13th. But then, and, like, while Nightmare on Elm Street has a low kill count overall for what it is, it tends to make up for it with creativity. And this had kind of a lack, especially subsequent ones had the lack of creativity of a Friday the 13th, but the low kill count of a, on-screen kill count of like a Nightmare. So it's this weird hybrid, like weird in-between place for the franchise. But like this one, like we said, though, like it's mostly atmosphere, because while they were trying to make an exploitation movie, with the violence and the nudity and stuff, they were also like trying to make an actual good movie, and like that's also kind of a commentary on exploitation. So, I think that's where part of it is. It doesn't go nuclear like some of the other films would.
So, Rob, I have a question. I know that you said you've seen some, but you don't remember which. Did you happen to see Halloween 3, the one that's like an anthology. It doesn't have Michael in it at all. It's kind of just doing a whole different timeline of like a factory with haunted masks. Well, I guess not haunted masks, whatever. Masks
Yeah,
that are evil, essentially.
Uh,
Are you familiar with that one at all?
I don't know. I think I've seen. Well, I don't know.
yeah.
I've
And
never
some of
seen a
this you might have.
Halloween that looked a season of the witch that had nothing to do with like
Yeah,
everything
no,
else.
that's the one we're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's the
Yeah,
third one.
yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, Season of
Okay.
the Witch.
yeah.
So if you're familiar with that one, I was just curious because like if you preferred that over the Michael killing things, that's originally what John Carpenter wanted to do going forward with the Halloween franchise. He didn't necessarily want to do this whole Michael coming back 50 billion times thing. He originally wanted to just make it an anthology around Halloween based things, just creepy things happening on Halloween, which would have been super interesting because I think that when Season of the Witch came out, people did not like it, but I think now people are coming around to it a lot more. People are seeing it as a better film than what it was, or some people even prefer it to the original, which is crazy. But I personally think 3 is pretty good.
I was pleasantly surprised based on its reputation, even 20 some years ago. Of because that's why I'd never watched like any Beyond 2. Was That's kind of what I'd always heard was watch 1, 2's not bad, and then avoid the rest of the franchise because it's crap. You know, and that I like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. You can, and like a lot of films, you have to evaluate Halloween, the first one, as a standalone thing and keep in mind that they weren't planning on sequels or any of the lore when they originally did it. It's the same, because one of the things I kind of mentioned at the top is some of the things we associate with the Halloween franchise aren't even established yet, even though Michael Myers as a killer is far more established than Jason is in the Friday the 13th franchise, because in that franchise, he's not even the killer in 1, and he doesn't get his iconic mask until 3. That one of the most associated things with Jamie Lee Curtis, her character is his sister, but that's not established until
The second movie.
the second movie.
Mhm.
So, their intent, that was never their intention during the first one to make them related. And one makes far more sense because, the whole association with Jason and the boogeyman, because like the final thing about it is, Laurie, shaking and saying he's real, he's really real. Basically, the whole movie is about someone's world being shattered by realizing that evil truly exists in the world, you know? Um, and that's why Michael Myers gets away, despite being shot 6 times, is not to set up a sequel, but to show that you can't defeat the evil. And that's why she's shaken so badly. And so, putting it in that context also helps you appreciate the movie as a whole.
And plus, it is explored in further movies that like he represents evil, and because of that, it's just like he cannot be killed easily. He's just this kind of like ethereal being, some kind of supernatural thing.
Yeah, but I mean that's what you end up getting with all the slashers, because like Jason starts off supposedly being a man and basically being supernatural too. But I think it works better, like I I think the movie works better when you isolate it from the rest of what the rest of the franchise becomes, and don't let subsequent lore get involved and just focus on what the filmmakers were trying to do in the moment. With the themes and messaging they were trying to do in the moment, and then for me at least, that helped me see more of the craftsmanship and thought and work that went into the script and the visuals. Because it's very good.
You were talking about Jason's mask that he doesn't get to the third one and stuff, and I always find it interesting how the masks within all of the Halloween franchise also changes 100 times. But the main one, the iconic one, is actually, do you guys know what kind of mask it is? Like what it's inspired by?
I do, but I'll let Rob answer if he knows.
The original mask for who?
For
Michael
Michael.
Myers. Like, how did they get that original Michael Myers mask?
Do you know? If you don't, I'm sure Adam knows. I was
don't know.
curious if you did.
I was trying to think it through, but
Yeah.
can I get a multiple choice?
So they took a William Shatner mask and turned it inside out and spray painted it white.
Yep.
I absolutely had no idea.
Yeah, and there was like different things for in the further movies in the franchise where it's like they couldn't get the mask quite right, like how they did before, and it was like some of them look really wonky, particularly in H2O. It looks horrendous, but I love that movie, even though the mask is horrible.
I'll get to that later this week.
Yeah, H2O is like one of my favorites. It's not good, but the vibes are really fun. Like I just really like the boarding school setting. It's very interesting.
Well, so like I thought, obviously I think 1 is iconic for a reason. I thought 2 was pretty good as a continuation. The ambulance driver that Laurie has kind of a thing with is played by Lance Guest, who 1 also looks a lot like Tom Everett Scott from That Thing You Do. But Lance Guest was also in Jaws: The Revenge, the 4th Jaws movie. He plays Brody's son. But then he's also the star of The Last Starfighter, which is interesting because Nick Castle isn't in Halloween 2, so it's not like they met there or anything. But then there's a further connection to The Last Starfighter because Dan O'Herlihy, who is in Season of the Witch, he plays the main villain. He was also the main villain from our people will remember him from our RoboCop episode because he plays the old man, not the villain of the RoboCop franchise, but he's in a lot of those. He is also one of the main stars of The Last Starfighter. So it's just like I'm watching these and I'm feeling like Charlie Day with the red lines on the board.
Yeah. Every you can find a connection to every kind of film along the way. It's very interesting.
But I like I said, I like 2. I liked 3. I was surprised how much I liked 3. 4, not a good film, but I enjoyed it, like in the way I enjoy a lot of, because I enjoy just about every Friday the 13th movie, every Nightmare on Elm Street. There's only like 1 or 2 in those franchises that I don't enjoy. Even when they're really bad, I can still enjoy their cheesy goodness. But then you get to 5 and 6 in Halloween, and God, those are some baffling decisions up and down, and I did not enjoy those.
So,
Well,
Adam,
you know what's ironic about that?
Huh?
I'm sorry, real quick. The
Go ahead.
irony is that I think that the younger generation will respond to those bad, those latter bad versions of Halloween as compared to this one, the first one. I think that it would be too boring for them.
Possibly.
Well, see, that's where the new trilogy comes into the mix because, like, the one starting in 2018 definitely has a lot more kills, a lot more blood, a lot more brutality that it's kind of missing from the original. So that if people do want less ambiance, more kills, they can find it in the new recent trilogy.
All right, Kristen.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask Adam, have you seen any of the the recent trilogy from 2018 and on?
Not yet. I'll
Okay.
get to that.
I'm bringing it up because how the weirdness plot element happens in 6, there's something like what they do in the end of this trilogy that you're like, why would you put that in this place in your trilogy? So like I think that you'll probably feel the same. If you didn't like 6, you probably won't like ends because a lot of people didn't like it because there's like a weird part. I don't want to say what it is.
Dumb plot. Like I can love a good dumb plot. It just was executed so dully. It got awful performances out of the cast. Like I said, that is the worst Paul Rudd performance I have seen in my life.
And just to be clear, like I think Halloween 6 is, well, actually, no, maybe like my third or fourth least favorite, because I'm thinking originally was going to say Halloween Resurrection is my absolute worst. It's garbage. So get
Yeah.
ready for that. But but
Yeah.
yeah, it's like they try to make it like appealing to the modern audience at the time by adding a whole like reality show element, and
Yeah.
it's
Well,
bad. It's not good.
yeah. Well, it's not even a reality show. It's more like Howard Stern style shock jock. That isn't good. Just the baffling decision of, okay, the Strodes, Laurie Strode's adoptive parents, brother, and his family are going to move into the Michael Myers. Like, just like I said, baffling decisions.
Convoluted.
But the cinematography's still good. There's some there's not nothing there. It's just like I couldn't find them enjoyable. I found them a slog. That's why I only got through one 90-minute movie last night. I was like, I'm not in the proper space anymore to try and see if I'll enjoy another one. And like, it was funny because I watched five the night before, and then like they were talking about something from five, and I had to look at the Wikipedia article because I didn't remember that. And I'm going like, wait, I I have very vivid memories of certain parts of five, but then there's other stuff that just did not retain, and I'm like, I don't know that.
Yeah,
Uh,
not a good sign.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
so I know
whereas
we've been.
Yeah, which was weird because I enjoyed four, which also wasn't good, but who knows?
Yeah,
So
so I know we've been yapping for a while, but so we should probably wrap up soon. But I did want to bring up one more interesting fun fact that I learned from Google recently. So when they wanted to create the stabbing sound, the on-screen stabbing sounds, they had the Michael Myers, like guy dressed up as Michael Myers, like stabbing a watermelon. So they were stabbing a watermelon to get the stabbing noises, which I thought is very interesting. I wish there was like, I wonder if there's behind the scene video of that, because that would be super interesting.
we talked about the budget and how they got so much for so little. Um, it's also Deborah Hill, who was the co-writer, and she and John Carpenter were an item together at the time because they worked together on a lot of pictures. And would only break up around the time John Carpenter got together with his future wife, Adrienne Barbeau, who is in John Carpenter films like Escape from New York and The Fog.
Adam, John Carpenter did The Thing, right?
Yes, correct. That's in
When did he do that
1982.
compared to this? Okay, okay,
1982.
4 years later.
Yeah. Because this is around the time because the Elvis made for TV movie is also like 1978 or 79. That's when he first works with Kurt Russell. I want to say Escape from New York is like 1981 or so. The Fog is like 1980.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, yeah. Deborah Hill based a lot of the dialogue and some of the stuff for the babysitting stuff around her own real life experiences. And I think she grew up in Ohio. But, obviously the movie is set in Illinois just to kind of give it, you know, the this could happen anywhere Midwest feel. But, as I said, because they're shooting on a budget, they're actually shooting in LA, not Illinois. And so that's where you get things like palm trees in the background. Um, but that happens a lot with movies that are supposed to be set in the Midwest. Even like A Nightmare on Elm Street, I remember watching that last month and going, "Oh, it's so refreshing that they don't bother to try and set this movie that's clearly being shot in California somewhere else. Like it's clearly supposed to be set in California, forgetting that the movie is supposed to be taking place in Ohio." you know I mean, because like you've got like at certain points they're literally shooting those bridges they've got in Santa Monica, like
Yeah, yeah,
those white bridges that are like
yeah.
iconic to Santa Monica. I was like, what are you doing? But like also even bigger budget movies like Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation,
Yeah, yeah.
supposed to be taking place, in a suburb of Chicago, and they're going to the mountains to cut down a Christmas tree. Anyway, yes, no, sorry, we're wrapping up.
Yeah, well, that's par for the course every time we're in an Adam conversation. So because we had to do that 7 degrees of actor thing before, so I'm already used to it.
That's just how my brain works. I apologize.
Well, I guess that being said, what are some like just final thoughts? Anything else about the franchise, the first movie that we want to talk about?
The first movie, for me, like I said, is just iconic. I highly recommend it. Just you see why it is praised. Because it is just good cinema. But you also see how it inspired so much of what is to come.
Yeah, I think it's a fun Friday night. Friday night dark pizza. Enjoy the movie kind of a thing. Especially if you want to see like a throwback. The pacing is slow, but everything from that era was at that kind of pace. It was good. It was enjoyable. I probably wouldn't watch it if we didn't have to, but I'm glad we did.
Yeah, I mean I love the film. I just like the franchise. I think the music is what really makes this one so much fun to rewatch compared to the others because it just feels like quintessential Halloween season. Like I love to throw it on specifically on Halloween morning or something, and then you just get to hear the music as you're going about your morning, eating breakfast, whatever. Yeah, so I just really like. I think the score really elevates the whole film for me personally. I mean, I think the movie itself is pretty good, but I think it's really the score that makes this such a memorable one for me that I always find myself going back to.
Where would you rank, even though I'm, only about halfway through the Halloween franchise at this point, where would you personally rank the Halloween franchise amongst the big three of, Nightmare, Friday, and Halloween? Um,
Um, I think I probably would still put Halloween above the other two. I think that Friday would be last for me just because of all of the films. Like if we're talking a collective whole, I enjoy the least out of the like of the Friday films versus everything. But I really do love Nightmare, even like the later iterations. So it would be hard for me to say if Halloween or Nightmare is like the top of the three. But I probably would say Halloween just because like I have a lot more I guess nostalgia surrounding it versus Nightmare, which I watched a little more recently. When I say recently, I just mean like in the last, like I went through the whole franchise for the first time in the last like 5 years versus Halloween. I'd seen a lot before that.
yeah. For me, I'd probably go Friday the 13th and then Nightmare and then Halloween. As much as I like the first three Halloween movies, the subsequent three have just not been holding up and are not enough. Like night. Part of the thing I like about a Friday the 13th movie is they're so goofy, dumb, fun that you can just put them on and enjoy them with no thought and like even have them on in the background. But I also understand why people don't like them.
What's the name of that other franchise where like the guy like there's a couple of scary guys in the movie. One of them has like needles all over his face.
Oh,
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser.
Yeah, how does that compare to any of these?
I've only seen the first Hellraiser, and it's been a long time.
I've only seen the first two, but I have been told after two that they're not good either. So I can't say for sure, but the first one is great. I love the first one.
Um, and I've never seen like the Pumpkinhead franchise. I want to check that out at some point. I've seen like one or two of the Chuckies. That's one I want to revisit.
Oh yeah, I really like the Chucky franchise.
That
Like
might
even
be
the
fun.
ones that aren't that great
Yeah.
are still fun. They're still
Yeah.
good.
And I'm also working my way through the Scream franchise, but that's such a different beast where, obviously it's just better made all the way around than most of the movies, and they have bigger budgets and stuff. So that's where I didn't want to bring Scream into it. And I wanted to mainly focus on the, 80s icons.
It does make you appreciate Scream more after watching like these meant to be scary movies that are fun, but then when you watch Scream, it just like takes it up a whole other level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously, we could be here all day talking about not just about the rest of the Halloween franchise, but a lot of other horror franchises. Maybe we'll do a side quest on that one day because that's a lot of fun, and I know it's fun to pick Kristen's brain who on those because she has even more knowledge on a lot of that than I do. But until then. We will be back here soon with another episode. Don't quite know what the topic is going to be just yet, but we're excited to come back. So thank you to Javi and the rest of our editor and the rest of the Savage Content team. Thank you, as always, to my co-hosts, Rob and Kristen. Thank you to you, the audience, most of all. If you are listening on a platform that allows comments, leave us a comment, give us 5 stars. If you're watching on YouTube, give a like, subscribe, ring the bell, all the good YouTube things. Until then, I've been your host, Adam, and we'll see you next time on the Savage Movie Night Podcast.